Now, I really like Flutterflow. I think it's one of the best, if not the best, visual app builders out there for building all kinds of apps, such as mobile or even web apps, very quickly and easily. It supports a lot of widgets. It supports backends. You can use Supabase, you can use Firebase, you can use a custom backend. The logic layer is second to none. Having said that, I also love building apps with coding agents such as Cursor, Claude Code, or Codex. And in fact, my favorite coding agent right now is Codex, which I've been using to build all kinds of apps in the last weeks and months. And so for the past couple of weeks, I've been thinking a lot of a way to combine two of my passions, combine Flutterflow with something like Codex or some other coding agent to help you build apps faster and easier, essentially have the best of both worlds. And I'm happy to say that I figured out how you can do just that. And so in this video, I'm going to be showing you how you can use a coding agent to build Flutterflow apps. And believe me, you're going to be very impressed by the time I finish showing you the demo and also showing you some of the possibilities that are right around the corner. And also, I'm going to be showing you exactly how it works and how you can leverage the same system as well to do exactly what I'm going to be demonstrating in today's video, because I'm going to be open sourcing this tool, allowing everybody to use this to build apps using coding agents. All right, so here I am looking at one of the apps that I have built recently, and I actually built this app using a new tool called Flutterflow Designer. And so this is a pretty cool app. It has a really nice UI, right? You have the statistics, you have profile, you also have onboarding, you have, add new habit, right? It's a habit tracking app. And so once I have it here, I can continue to work on it, right? So I can, go to this page here. I can change this to something else. I can tweak things, stuff like that. But what if you don't want to do it visually? You do not want to do it manually. AI agentic coding is all about having an LLM follow English instructions and write the code or write the instructions to do everything for you. So how exactly do you do this with Flutterflow? Well, there are actually several pieces to this puzzle, okay? The first piece to this puzzle is Flutterflow's own Project API. And so if you Google for Flutterflow's Project API, you're going to end up on this page over here, right? And it kind of tells you what it is. The Flutterflow Project APIs allow you to programmatically read, write, and validate YAML configuration files through REST endpoints, right? Using these APIs, you can automate project management tasks, integrate continuous integration and delivery workflows, etc., etc. And so you can kind of read this, you can scroll down, and you can learn more about it. But what exactly does it do? Well, in a nutshell, it allows you to edit your apps, to modify your projects, right? A project is essentially an app. And so you give it access to your Flutterflow account in the form of a Flutterflow API token, and you can simply reference any projects that you have, any apps that you have using a project ID, and you can make all kinds of changes to it, okay? Sounds really good. The issue here is that this API is very difficult to work with. I actually found out about this API, I want to say 6 months ago, maybe more, at least 6 months ago. And I actually tried building apps using this API directly, and it was very tough, right? It's not an API that's kind of easy to use. It's a little cumbersome. It has a fairly steep learning curve. But, if you want the challenge, you can get it to work. Well, fortunately, there's a much easier way, right? Thanks to LLMs, thanks to AI, thanks to AI agents, we can have them figure it out for us without us needing to spend lots of time understanding how this works and building apps around this, okay? And so the next piece of the puzzle becomes, how exactly do you get an AI agent to talk to this project API in order to give us a way to modify our apps, using English language, right? Well, this is where something called MCP comes in, right? What exactly is MCP? MCP stands for Model Context Protocol, right? And if you Google for MCP, you might end up on a page that looks like this. You might end up on another page, but it's all the same. MCP is an open source standard for connecting AI applications to external systems, right? This right here, right? MCP is the missing link, right? When it comes to taking something like, GPT, Gemini, Claude Code, or Claude, and having them understand your third-party apps, right? So if I want, GPT to, do scheduling for me or organize my inbox, it cannot do that, right? It needs to have access to these resources, right? I need to give it access to my Gmail account. I need to give it access to my Google Calendar, right? And once you give it access, it's going to figure out how to do everything, right? Because when you do give it access in the form of this MCP, you're essentially giving it a list of tools that it can figure out what each tool is for and do the appropriate action, right? Because each tool is a command, okay, essentially. And so what we need to do is we need to build an MCP server that talks on our behalf to our Flutterflow apps via this project API. And that is exactly what I did. Okay, that is exactly what I set out to do. And that is exactly what I want to share with you guys today. Okay, so let me jump into my terminal over here. So if I go into my terminal, I'm in this directory called ffmcp. And if I show you the files, this right here is the MCP server. Okay, essentially, this is this layer here that wraps around this project API and allows us to just tell AI what we want to happen to our app. What kind of changes do we want to make? What kind of updates do we want to delete pages, create pages, etc., etc., etc. Now, do not worry. I'm going to be open sourcing my MCP server, okay, and I'm going to be sharing that with you guys a little bit later in the video. But right now, I want to show you a quick demo, okay? So I have this here. I'm in this directory, and I also have some instructions that tell different agents how it works, right? So for instance, we have this agents.md, which are instructions for Codex. I also have instructions for Cursor, right? So if I go into Cursor, I have Cursor rules. And I have a bunch of rules here. And I'm going to be updating these rules as we go along. And so regardless of what you're using, what kind of AI agent, I'm going to have rules so that it's going to be more robust. It doesn't have to think. It doesn't have to figure things out. It's going to know exactly how things work. Okay, so I'm actually using Codex. I really, really like Codex. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to run Codex here in this directory here. Now, once I get into Codex and I type /MCP, you can see that I actually have a bunch of MCP servers here, okay? But the MCP server that we care about is this one right here. This is our Flutterflow MCP server. And so it has my Flutterflow API token, which is configurable, and that is something that you have to configure on your end so that it gets access to your Flutterflow account. And now we can actually work with our apps. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Flutterflow. And if I go to this top left corner here and I click, you can see that it has a project ID. Now, I actually hard-coded this project ID for this demo here, okay? But if you give it an API token, it's going to have access to all of your apps, all of your projects, okay? So in this demo, we do not need to give it the project ID because I have it configured for this app right here. And so now what I can do is I can say something like using our Flutterflow MCP list the pages in my project, okay? And it's going to figure out a specific tool to do just that, right? So it found this pages.list, and it tells us that we have 6 pages. Now, if I go here and I take a look, I have exactly 6 pages, okay? These items here, these are components, okay? We only care about pages, and I do have exactly 6 pages over here, okay? And it's also telling us that this snapshot is a little stale. It's older than 30 minutes, okay? Because the way this MCP works is that it downloads this app as a snapshot. So that way we don't need to continuously talk to Flutterflow. And I know that, I downloaded it and I did not make any changes to this app. So in my mind, as far as I'm concerned, this is synced correctly, okay? And so now let's talk about the fun stuff, okay? Let's say we want to go into our login page, and here it says James. And we want to change that from James to James No Code. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it in the page login, change James to James No Code. Okay, and I'm going to on the page login, and I'm going to execute this. And it's going to figure out exactly how to do that, right? Because we have specific tools to do these operations. Okay, so take a look. It's executing help. So it's going to get a list of, messages. And hopefully it's going to figure out exactly what it needs to do. So it found the available command widget update text, and it's going to figure out exactly how to change this. Okay. So it found the target node, and there it is. It just executed widget.set. You see this? The write applied successfully, etc. And we already see it, okay? And that's another cool thing is that as you're modifying it, it's real time. It makes changes in real time, which is really, really nice, okay? So that right there was very, very quick and easy. Let me show you something else. So on this login page, we have two tabs, right? We have the sign up and we have the sign in. So for the sign in, we have email, username, and password. Now, if you take a look at the sign up, you can see that the border radius is more, right? I believe it's 40. If we scroll down, you can see that the border radius is 40 here. And on the sign in, I think it's 10. Okay, right here, border radius 10. Now, let's say I want to change these to 40. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to say on the login page, change all the inputs, all three inputs, border radius to 40. Okay, let's go and see if it's able to figure it out. Okay, it's going to do some searching. It's going to figure out how to get these items, right? And as part of making this MCP server, I've given it a lot of tools, specific tools that do specific things. And that is exactly what it's going to do. So it's planning this input update strategy. It's doing help, and it's getting these commands slowly. It's going to figure out which command is needed to update. I'm inspecting the login text field nodes to identify exactly which three inputs to patch, etc., etc. Let's see if it's able to do it. I found the three login inputs. Perfect. That is exactly what we have over here. And it's going to do it in real time, and we should see it right here. Okay, so now username has been changed. You see the border radius is bigger. It's more round. And it should do the same thing to these other ones. So let's wait a couple of moments. And there it is. All of them are finished. Okay, we just executed the command, and it tells us I've applied all three updates successfully. I'm now verifying. It's going to verify everything looks good. Okay. Now, let's try something else. Let's go to another page, profile settings, and we have this James No Code. And I don't know, I want to change maybe the background, right? So this profile settings, where's that background? Is it on the container level? No, it's on this page here, right? So this is this primary background. Okay, so let's say I change it to, I don't know, this one. And so now let's go ahead and ask it to change this background color on the page. So okay, so the prompt I'm going to be using on the profile settings page, change the background color for the main page to very light gray. Okay, let's see if it's able to do that. Okay, as you can see right now, it's kind of this pink color, light pink. And let's see if it's able to do it. And there it is. It just did it. The update applied successfully. You see this? It actually came up with this color. Okay, I kind of know these hex codes, but I do not know all of them. I know some of them, and so you don't even need to know them. You can just say light gray, and it's able to figure it out, okay? What else do you want to do? What else should we try? Let's go back to daily dashboard, and let's say we want to duplicate this container over here, okay? So we have this container, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to duplicate this container that has an almost there text widget inside. So I'm going to say on the page daily dashboard, that has a text widget almost there inside, that has a text inside it. Okay, so this is this text widget here. I'm going to do that. And I want to duplicate this whole container. Okay, let's see if it's able to figure it out. And there you see it, completed on daily dashboard, and we have 2 duplicates. So it was able to figure out which container, because there's a bunch of containers, right? There's a lot of containers. There's a container, there's a container, there's a container, right? And so you can give it really nice instructions, and it's able to figure out, which has always been something that I wanted to do. And I'm so glad that we're able to do it right now. Now, there's other things that you can do. So let's say you want to duplicate a page. Okay, so let's say we have this login page and you want to duplicate it. Well, you can do that as well. Duplicate the login page into login 2. And it should also be able to do that because it knows how to duplicate pages, okay? I'm using the page clone command to copy login and name the new page login 2. So let's see if it's able to do it. Clone prepared successfully. And here it is, done. I duplicated login to login 2, etc., etc. And now we see this login 2. And if we click here, it's the same page. Okay, so duplicating pages is very, very straightforward as well. Now, I can keep going, but I want to show you something cool. Let's say that you want to know how far you can go. It's actually very, very simple. Let's say you want to take a look at this button here. So let's go back to login, and we have this sign in over here. So I'm going to go to sign in, and so I'm going to say on the login page, tell me all the properties for the sign in button. Okay? And it's going to tell you all the properties that it knows about and properties that it can work with. So that way you know what you can do, okay? So it's going to go ahead and find that button. I found the button node. And by the way, if you're working with an API, you're going to be looking at these nodes all over the place. You'll need to kind of be dealing with them. And there it is. So here are the properties, right? Here are the properties that the system knows about, okay? So title small, sign in, input value, most recent color value, all of these things, right? Also configured on this button on tap. Okay, we also have an on tap event. Okay, and so you can work with all of these, and you can also work with logic, right? So you can change navigation as well. So for instance, let's say we want to change this login to navigate to daily dashboard. I can do that as well. Make it so that clicking the button navigates to the daily dashboard page. And this should be able to figure out how to do that, right? I'll retarget the sign in buttons on tap action from onboarding to daily dashboard. Okay, so it's gonna do that right now. I have the command shape, etc., etc. And you should see that change immediately, right? So if you go to this action, you can see that now it is daily dashboard. It already did it, right? The action update applied successfully, right? So even before I had a chance to check, it was already done. And you can see that right here. You don't need to run the app. You know that that's the case, right? So you can even click over here, edit, and you know it's daily dashboard. Okay, so we were able to do it using our MCP server. Now I can keep going and going and show you some of the more kind of advanced stuff, but I'm going to save that for a full tutorial, okay? Because I'm still refining and enhancing this MCP server by making it more robust so that it's able to make changes quicker as it learns more about how Flutterflow stores apps, okay? Because that's what it's all about. It needs to understand how Flutterflow stores all of these, right? How this API works, right? And I'm still enhancing it. I'm still improving it over time. And so in a future video, I want to make a full tutorial showing you how to use something like Flutterflow Designer and combining it with this MCP so that we can build an app very, very quickly using just, AI agentic coding. So let me know in the comments below if that is something that you may be interested in. And you can learn more about the MCP server by heading to my GitHub repo, right? That's available at github.com/James NoCode/Flutterflow-MCP. That is our unofficial Flutterflow MCP server that you can use. And like I said before, I'm going to be constantly improving it, constantly adding new features, making it better, making it more robust. And also make sure you check out our amazing Patreon community. That is where all the resources are. That is where I answer your questions, give you tips and tricks. And when you join, you're effectively supporting this channel and supporting my work. And that is highly, highly appreciated. So check out our amazing Patreon community by clicking the first link in the description below the video. And let me know in the comments below what kind of videos do you want to see next.